understand how and why she made them, and to share the insights. Stories about survival serve to inspire us, and we are drawn to them like moths to a lighted window. They demonstrate that the human spirit can rise above what appear to be unbeatable odds. Many of the most inspiring of these tales come from the last century, when explorers set out armed with what seems to us today to have been shockingly inadequate equipment and advanced information. Such stories not only inspire, but can also be instructive, and we subject them to close scrutiny for the wisdom they can impart. But also instructive are the opposite of these stories, which demonstrate that sometimes, often, even indomitable spirits may not prevail. Terrain, wind, weather, the forces a climber faces today are as severe and uncompromising as they were when earlier explorers faced them 100 years ago. As severe, too, is the risk for human error. Possibly, some essential survival skills are more difficult to hone and sustain today than they ever were before. To what extent, for example, does an iPhone loaded with music distract from situational awareness? To what extent does a welter of information about weather and expected conditions create the illusion of control? And to what extent does carrying the means to call for help instill the false sense of security that, once requested, help can in fact be extended? In its detailed exposition of Matrosova's journey, Where You'll Find Me offers both a tribute to a brave spirit and a masterclass in risk assessment and the so-called soft skills that will always be needed to survive. It also serves as a bracing reminder that, even equipped with 21st century technologies, those who venture into the world's wild places today are as vulnerable as the explorers of old. Caroline Alexander, June 13, 2017. Prologue. Full Conditions. Climbers experience the consequences of their actions immediately and on a personal level. Reinhold Messner, mountaineer, explorer, and author. The Franconia Ridge, White Mountain National Forest, New Hampshire, February 2008. I was in trouble. Not the kind I was in when, as a new driver, I was stopped for speeding and, rather than issue a ticket, the officer called my father before I arrived home. No, this was the kind of trouble where I was placing myself and the people I was with at risk. At the invincible age of 16, I had ignored the speed limit. A little more than 2 decades later, I was ignoring my own limit. In retrospect, the trouble began for me as soon as I awoke that morning. Low visibility outside, the cocoon-like microclimate of my warm bed, and a stout westerly wind pushing against the bedroom window were combining to create a contradiction in sensory stimulation. Was this really a good day to hike the Franconia Ridge Traverse? It was not. Red flag number 1. Then I thought about my level of physical fitness for the challenging trip ahead. Marginal at best. Red flag number 2. And was I sure I wanted to spend a long, grueling day with 2 guys I had never met, let alone hiked with? No, not feeling it. Red flag number 3. As I considered what to do, I allowed myself to suppress that initial grasp of the obvious, my rational acknowledgement that today wasn't the day to get after it, in the interest of preserving my ego. I was not going to be the one to back out, so I rolled out of bed to prepare for the hike I'd committed to. A winter traverse of the Franconia Ridge with 2 people I didn't know, while out of shape and in what would surely be described as adverse hiking conditions. Somehow, I knew that those first red flags would not be the last of the day. "Honey, it looks really bad out. Are you sure about this?" asked my wife, with the perfect balance of anxiety and empathy. I don't think I responded with anything more than the clenching of my jaw, avoidance of eye contact, and "Yep, I'm good." Not long afterward, my ride pulled into the driveway, and I collected the gear I'd set out the night before. I hadn't skimped, and the load was heavy. The weight of the gear would further challenge my